Today, I will review the General Information Notice Residential Tenant to be Displaced Guide Form, also known as the GIN, which is one of HUD's required documents for voluntary buyout or acquisition programs that have displaced tenants, therefore triggering URA requirements. A link to HUD's General Information Notice Residential Tenant to be Displaced Guide Form can be found on the Texas General Land Office website at recovery.texas.gov. To locate the document, go to the Local Buyout and Acquisition Program page. The link can be found in the comments on this video. Scroll down to the left side checklist section and click on the General Information Notice Residential Tenant to be Displaced link. Once you click on the link, you will be directed to HUD's website, where there is a copy of the guide form for printing or saving to your computer. Subrecipients are required to revise the General Information Notice guide form and send it out to all tenants of residences that have applied for voluntary buyout or acquisition programs. Subrecipients must also send the GIN to homeowners and tenants of involuntary buyout or acquisition programs. Tenants are defined as a person who has the temporary use and occupancy of real property owned by another. HUD affirms that in most programs, if the tenant occupant of a dwelling moves permanently from the property after submission of an application for HUD financial assistance, the tenant will be presumed to qualify as a displaced person. To minimize such unintended displacements, HUD policy considers all occupants within a proposed HUD-assisted project involving acquisition, rehabilitation, or demolition as scheduled to be displaced for purposes of issuing a GIN. Therefore, all tenants of buyout and acquisition programs are required to receive a General Information Notice, as are all homeowners and tenants of involuntary buyout or acquisition programs. HUD states that persons who are scheduled to be displaced must be provided with a GIN as soon as feasible. The Texas General Land Office considers as soon as feasible for the voluntary buyout and acquisition program to be when the subrecipient or their vendor receives and reviews the voluntary intake beneficiary application. Section 7 of the Voluntary Intake Beneficiary Application has a question. Is this a rental property? If the applicant has marked yes on the form that the property in the application is a rental property, the subrecipient should immediately revise and send out the General Information Notice to the tenants in the property to be acquired. Please note, the case file must indicate the manner in which this notice was delivered. For example, personally served, certified mail, or return receipt requested. The case file should also note the date of delivery. For this video, I'll use an example of a fictional applicant and location to explain the General Information Notice. In our example, Rango County used the guide form created by HUD that is displayed on the screen to create their own letter to the tenants of one of their applicant buyout properties. Rango County placed the letter on their county letterhead, and then they updated the date and the name of the tenant to address the letter. The first paragraph in the letter informs the tenant that the property that they are residing at may be bought out or acquired by the subrecipient under a HUD program. The subrecipient then filled out all of the sections in the first paragraph that indicate they should be updated with underlining. The subrecipient will input the subrecipient name in the first line as the entity acquiring the property. The subrecipient is interested in acquiring the property since it is for the buyout or acquisition program. The subrecipient will input the address that will be acquired, and the name of the program will be the Texas General Land Office Hurricane Harvey Local Buyout or Acquisition Program. It reads, Rango County is interested in acquiring the property you currently occupy at 126 Dulce Lane, Enterprise, Texas 12345 for a proposed project which may receive funding assistance from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, under the Texas General Land Office's Hurricane Harvey Local Buyout and Acquisition Program. The second paragraph in the letter gives notice to the applicant that they may be displaced as a result of the project acquiring the property they reside at, and as a result, the tenant has rights under the federal law Uniform Relocation Assistance, URA, for relocation assistance and payments if found eligible. This paragraph also notes that the letter is not a notice to vacate the premises and that tenants should continue to live on the property. If tenants vacate the property prior to eligibility notification, they may forego their rights to uniform relocation assistance. Also, this letter is not a notice of eligibility. Eligibility will be determined at a later date. The next paragraph describes the relocation that the tenant may be eligible for if found eligible in the future. Assistance includes relocation advisory services to assist tenants in finding another comparable place to live, at least 90 days advance written notice of the date the tenant will be required to move, payment to the tenant for moving expenses, replacement housing payments to enable the tenant to rent or, if they prefer, to purchase a comparable replacement home. Tenants will also have the right to appeal the agency's determination if they feel that their application for assistance was not properly considered. Note: all subrecipients must provide this assistance to eligible displaced tenants. This paragraph also includes a reference to the HUD brochure, Relocation Assistance to Tenants Displaced from Their Homes, which is required to be provided with the General Information Notice. The brochure provides information on relocation payments and other relocation assistance provided under the Uniform Relocation Assistance and Real Property Acquisition Policies Act of 1970 as amended, URA. It also provides common questions and answers for tenants who have received the General Information Notice. Subrecipients should attach and send this brochure with the GIN. Notice that in our example, the subrecipient has included the brochure as an attachment to the letter. Returning back to the first page of the General Information Notice, the next paragraph is a notice that aliens not lawfully present in the United States are not eligible for relocation assistance unless such ineligibility would result in exceptional hardship to a qualifying spouse, parent, or child. Everyone applying to relocation assistance will need to certify that they are a United States citizen or national or alien lawfully present in the United States. The following paragraph advises tenants that they must continue to pay rent and meet obligations under the lease agreement. If a tenant is evicted for failure to comply with obligations under the lease agreement or voluntarily moves prior to a formal notice of relocation eligibility, they may not be eligible to receive relocation assistance. Next, the letter again reminds the tenants they should not vacate the premises, and the letter does not establish eligibility for relocation assistance, and that the tenant will be notified of these in future in writing. The following paragraph should be completed with the information of the program contact who tenants can contact with questions on their eligibility or the project. For example, the county included the contact information for the case manager working on the applicants with URA tenants. Finally, the general information notice should be signed by the subrecipient. We hope you enjoyed this training on the General Information Notice Residential Tenant to be Displaced Guide Form. If there are any additional questions during the completion of the form, subrecipients should reach out to their General Land Office Grant Manager. Additional videos covering the other required local buyout and acquisition forms are or will soon be available at the same location you are viewing this one.